floating through space with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm Fight the Flerf. Welcome back to the channel that does the stupidity what Superman did to Zod. Thank you again for joining me, guys, for another Monday night debate. Monday night debate, excuse me, frog in my throat. Tonight I'm joined by someone who contacted me by email after commenting on the show and has some questions for me. So it's not really going to be a proper debate. It's going to be a discussion. So I hope there's going to be no shouting and we didn't need a moderator or anything. But let's just get right into it. This is Hollywood 6 from the channel Trash Talkers. Why don't you take a few minutes and tell everyone about yourself and your channel and why you think the Earth might be flat?
Guys, my name is Behringer, Hollywood 6 Bonds. I am the founder and one half of the Trash Talkers here on YouTube. We discuss everything from conspiracies to government corruption and just so happen to be flat Earth. Just posted a video about a month or two ago about flat Earth and aliens, and just so happened that video happens to be our most popular, most watched, most viewed video on YouTube on our channel. Came across Fight the Flat Earth channel and was a huge fan of his work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Came across a few of his interviews, and guys, I want to say this, and I want to be as clear as I can possibly be. I don't know if the Earth is flat. I don't know if the Earth is round. That's why I'm here today to ask questions that hopefully Fight can answer some of these questions for me. At the same time, guys, I hope you have fun. And hey, while you're here, make sure to go subscribe to the channel. That's www.youtube.com/Hollywood6. That's youtube.com/Hollywood, the number 6IX.
Nice. Well, yeah, I've put the links to the channel in the description as well. So definitely go check them out. I had a look at their channel earlier. It's actually quite a cool channel. They discuss a lot of things. You're a rapper as well. I saw where as you go onto the channel, you've got a rap on the homepage, and that was actually pretty good, and I really enjoyed listening to that. So yeah, guys, go and check out Hollywood 6 and your partner Smokey, is it?
Yes, that's my partner Smokey. He actually just sent the messages saying your sound's quality kind of low.
Me or you?
I'm assuming he's talking about you.
Right. Okay.
We're good. We're good.
If my volume's a little low, then I apologize, guys. I actually dropped my mic and I need to get a new one. But it looks like it's going through okay on there. Anyway, so yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you okay. And if you can hear me, then they should be able to hear me okay.
Okay, great. I just turned it up a little bit. Yeah, and also
Just make sure you're turned up.
Man,
There you go. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say, dude, some of the guests that you've had on this show, not trying to downplay them or not trying to speak derogatory about them in any way, shape, or means, but we have to admit, Flat Earth sounds bonkers. It sounds crazy. It sounds like something, I mean, it's literally a fairy tale to the majority of people on Earth. So you have to understand that when you're speaking to a huge population, that they're not going to see eye to eye when it comes to this particular topic. So some of the guests that you've had on, and again, I'm not degrading them, but it's kind of hard to take someone serious when they're passionate about something, but at the same time they're whining and talking over you and making jokes and calling you names and not letting you finish your point. You know, to me that's a little disrespectful.
Yeah, I understand. And when I have people on like Nathan Thompson, it's very hard to actually have a conversation with them because they don't understand how to have a conversation. And already I'm appreciating the fact that you are a lot easier to talk to than someone like Nathan Thompson ever was.
Just curious, is Nathan Thompson the guy that ran like a little girl?
Yes, yeah, he's the one that.
Oh wow!
He's the one that bounces balls on a sledgehammer and recites the periodic table of elements, and that somehow proves the flat Earth and shouts at children on school buses and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got questions, you know what? I'm absolutely cool with that because you should always question everything. But I have an issue with willful ignorance. when the answers are easily found and you've had things explained to you over and over and over, uh, and you're still going nuh-uh because reasons, it
Right.
frustrates me. So with that, what are the questions that you're kind of, what's made you start thinking that the Earth might not be a sphere?
Okay, and I'm glad you brought it up like that. What? Okay, if I could give you guys just a little backstory about myself. I grew up Southern Baptist, and Southern Baptist, fully believing in Jesus and God and everything like that, which I do believe that there is some higher power. But growing up, I went to a Baptist church. My mother was Baptist. My grandmother, everybody I knew was Baptist. I found out that we aren't the only Baptists. I literally thought everyone on the planet Earth was Baptist. I found out there were Catholics, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and I'm thinking to myself, how do we know we have it right? That's when I first started to question things. I'd have been middle school, early high school. Then, even before that, you get taught as a child, okay, you do good, you're going to get on the good list, and Santa Claus is going to bring you some presents. So your entire life, you're thinking, oh man, this big jolly guy is going to come down my chimney, and he's going to give me some presents. Turns out that big jolly fat guy never existed. Same thing with the Easter Bunny. Okay, Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, cool, you got me. Those aren't real. The Tooth Fairy
What?
has to be real. The Tooth Fairy has to be real. Found out the Tooth Fairy isn't real. So once I developed as a man, and once I learned to question things, that's when I started to, deviate from the original road. And what started with me with the flat Earth is basically the moon landing.
Okay.
That's what started with me. And Fight, if you don't mind me asking, just before we get deep into it, your background, do you have any education or any studies in aerospace or physics or quantum physics or
In physics, yeah, I've got 2 bachelor's degrees, one in physics, one in nuclear engineering. And my background, I suppose, is in practical applications of physics when I was an engineer in the
Right.
Royal Navy.
Okay. So just getting right into it, do you think that we landed on the moon in 1960?
Yes, I think we did.
Okay. May I ask why? Well,
The
1969.
the main reason that I think that we did is because of the independent verification from ham radio operators. Basically, they were able to track where the signals were coming from, and based on that information, we could triangulate where the signals were coming from. So there's so much other verification than just NASA, and there's also the fact that worldwide communications were used to transmit
in
signals.
1969.
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, when you talk about the phone call that was made to the moon, that had to be done across the planet using, they actually had to run it through somewhere in Australia to be able to get to the right point because of where the moon was and everything. And when you actually map out all the signals of where everything was coming from, it all points to the same location.
Okay, so let me get this correct. In 1969, no one had a cell phone. There was no such thing as Wi-Fi. GPS might have been around, global positioning system sensor, whatever you want to call it. It might have been around, but it was very primitive at this time. So you're telling me that in 1969, if I'm not mistaken, Russia sent Sputnik into space, maybe 56, 57. Okay, once America found out Russia sent something into space, Russia didn't land on the moon, but they sent something into space. Now, in my eyes, I look at it like America said, oh, well, somebody that we don't like, one of our non-allies is trying to go above and beyond to where we have been. You know what? Forget going to space. Let's go to the moon. So in 1969, the first time anyone has ever left Earth's atmosphere, the very first time, how did they know what suit to wear? How did they know what bolt goes there? How do they know what space is? How do they know that it's a vacuum? How did they know to land on a moon? How did they know, that there's no gravity? How did they know the moon is 1/3 Earth gravity? How did they know these things the very first time sending someone there? How did they know those things?
Well, they didn't just go to the moon. What landed on the moon was Apollo 11, the first one, right? I think.
Correct.
Yeah. So that means there was 10 Apollo missions before that, and they were all building up to that. They, going into low Earth orbit, testing the equipment. Actually going to the moon and orbiting it, but not actually landing and then coming back. So there were stages that they'd work towards. So I mean, we knew space was real because we had satellites up there, and like you said, Russia had put Sputnik in space, and the fact that Russia put that in space as the first artificial satellite pissed America off. They were like, "Fuck, we've been," and yeah, there was a lot of, damn, Russia have done that. Well, screw that. We're going to go to the moon, and
exactly.
And that, I think, it was a lot. It was national pride. It was trying to beat the Russians to doing something, because the space race and everything was going off, and the arms race, and so yeah, there was a lot of, we've got to do this to beat the Russians, and I can see how that can kind of breed a conspiracy, but that at the same time doesn't mean that they didn't do what they say they did. They did all the testings. They built a chamber where they could test astronaut suits in a vacuum. They sent rockets up without people in to see how equipment functioned in space. They built up to that, and yeah, it was pretty quick, but the evidence that they actually went there is now, and was back then, available. And like I said, my main reason for thinking, yeah, it's definitely real, is all the independent verifications from people that were nothing to do with any of it, from all over the world.
Other than NASA?
Other than NASA, other than other space agencies, anyone that could operate a ham radio was able to kind of track where the signals were.
Right. Now, to get back what you said that Russia, or not even Russia, we had satellites in upper Earth's or lower, above the Earth, basically, before we went to the moon.
Yeah.
Now, if these satellites are unmanned, there's no physical, biological human being on these objects that are leaving Earth. How are they able to test? How do they know, okay, yes, when we send metal into outer space, we know metal doesn't disintegrate, it doesn't freeze, it doesn't, it immediately explode. So let's send a human up. I mean, they didn't send a dog up first. They did not America. They have sent dogs and chimps. I think Russia might have been the first. But America's first time going to the moon, the very first time, they sent 3 men without knowing what's going to. It was literally. It could have been a literal suicide mission. Literally.
Well, I suppose you're right in that, in some sense, that we never knew exactly what was going to happen, but the same way that when explorers in the ancient past never knew what would happen when they stepped onto a foreign land. It's about discovery and doing it. And yeah, it was dangerous. And then back in 1969, it was especially dangerous because these guys were basically sent to the moon with just solid engineering. There wasn't any fancy computers or anything. They did have a computer on board helping them with stuff, but it was basically 3 guys in a metal box with a rocket. There wasn't. Right, so it was relatively quite basic technology that actually sent them to the moon.
My point exactly, and I hate to interrupt you, but without them knowing that, do you think Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, do you think that in the back of their mind, okay, guys, we are going to be the first people to land on this quote-unquote terrestrial object outside of space? Do you think in the back of their minds that they think, or do you think that the governments or the powers that be or the NASA said, listen, we're going to send you out there, but there's a strong possibility you might come back? Do you think they were ever told those words? We'll send you there, but we can't guarantee you'll come back.
Yeah, I reckon that they were worried. And at the same time, if you were in that position and you were about to step foot on the moon and be the first one, but there was a chance something might go wrong, wouldn't you still take that chance?
I don't know if I would, man.
Oh man, I would.
Know if I would.
I 100% would, even if there was a 50-50 chance that I might die when I step foot on the moon. To be the first person in humanity to do that.
You would take that?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so with that being said, Richard Branson or even Elon Musk, they're planning a trip to go to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no one's ever been to Mars. So if you had the opportunity to go, 50-50 chance you'll make it there and back. Would you take that?
100%. Well, okay, let's take that back. At the moment, I've got kids now and a family, right? So
Good point.
I suppose I'd have to take that into account. But at the same time, my family know that if I was given the opportunity to go to space, that would be something that I would want to do. So
Right.
I think my family would probably say, yeah, go for it. You know, to be the family of someone to go to Mars. That I think that would be, yeah, they might never see me again, but at the same time, their dad is pushing the boundaries of humanity, and
Right.
I suppose be helping advance humanity, and that's important thing to do.
Right.
But like, yes, I would go if all the things were in place, and it was cool with my family and everything. Yeah, I would absolutely go, even if there was a chance that something could go wrong, because God, that's exciting.
I would agree 100%, but to me, it just sounds like a suicide mission. And getting back to the um, satellites that were above lower Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay, they sent metal out. I'm sure you know about the Van Allen radiation belt, correct?
Yes.
Before they sent humans outside of Earth, they had no clue what the Van Allen radiation belt was. Now, when they sent a metal, quote unquote, satellite through this Van Allen radiation belt, obviously radiation is not going to really affect a piece of metal. But if you send a biological entity into space, then radiation, especially a long exposure over time, it's going to harm you. How did they know about the Van Allen radiation belt? And apparently, there's a hole, a donut hole, to where you can cross through it. They didn't know about that. Even if that's even real, they didn't know about that until years and years later. So they just sent these 3 guys on a unmanned journey to the moon through the Van Allen radiation belt, not knowing what's going to happen.
Okay,
What
right.
are your thoughts on that?
So yes, the Van Allen belts are a real thing. One of the main things is that they knew the intensity levels of certain areas, and it was planned so that they would go through the lowest intensity areas of the Van Allen radiation belt.
How did they know that?
By having satellites in space and probes that can measure electromagnetic radiation. So we didn't know everything about the Van Allen radiation belts, and we are still discovering things. But one of the things we knew is that this lovely drawing by my son on a bit of paper could block most of the radiation that was coming from the Van Allen radiation belts. Yeah, when people talk about Van Allen radiation belts, they get all excited about all this big, strong radiation, but it's not actually kind of this devastating radiation that will rip through you. And
Right.
most radiation, I mean, obviously there is some higher energy level particles that would have got through and interacted with them, but I think during their traversal through the Van Allen radiation belts, they received less than 1 rad, like individually. They had radiation monitors on them that could show how much they'd have, and they didn't actually have a lot of radiation. The Van Allen radiation belts are basically our magnetic field trapping solar energy coming from the sun.
So,
So so we kind of knew what it was. We knew the high intensity levels, whereabouts they were, but at the same time, again, it was partly a risk. We didn't know exactly what would happen if we
Right.
sent people through, but that's what exploration and advancement is about.
Okay, so the key word you said there was risk. Do
Hmm.
you know? I'm asking, and I don't know. That's why, and I'm sure you have heard these questions and these statements that I'm making hundreds of times. But do you know that when they first went to the moon, do you know that they went through the donut hole, or did they not know about it?
I don't really know what you mean about the donut hole in particular.
Apparently,
I just know
there's
that they purposely made it so that they went through a lower intensity area than than they could have been.
okay. So the very first mission that went to the moon, there was basically they went there in a ship out of something that I made Brussels sprouts in last night. It was literally plastic, aluminum foil, maybe some mylar. You know,
Okay.
I made Brussels sprouts in it last night. Literally, I made Brussels sprouts in what they went to the moon, basically. And apparently, the technology was the same size of a Game Boy. Now, okay, go ahead.
So yeah, there wasn't just aluminum foil. It wasn't like the crumpled up bits of foil that you see were actually purposely done like that, like by hand, to reflect some of the radiation. That was literally radiation shielding on the outside of the lander, and the lander itself was pretty sturdy.
Okay, Fight, you have to agree with me here. Your son just made a beautiful drawing of the Van Allen radiation belt and how they can pass it, correct?
Yeah.
Your child could make the same thing that they went to the moon to. It looks like a paper mache project.
No.
I'm just looking.
That's just what it looks like. But like I said, the crumpled foil and stuff was literally done like that for a reason. Because it would better reflect radiation. If you think when you crumple up a bit of foil, you're making a whole bunch of extra individual surfaces. So that's why, that foil looking stuff was around the outside like that, so that it would reflect extra bits of radiation. But underneath that was some pretty sturdy, heavy duty equipment. They needed a massive ass rocket to get that into space. That lander was the thing that they needed to get up there.
Right. So the limb being this astronomical technological advancement in human history. This landed us on the moon. Now, when they left the moon, there was a camera basically following the limb up, showing it lifting up off of the moon.
Uh-huh.
So, two questions. Is that remote camera still there? How was it operated? And I'm sorry, a third question. Is it still there? How was it operated? And who filmed it? And another question. You said, yeah, they had these. I'm sorry to throw all these out.
That's
Maybe
right.
I'm just getting ahead of myself. But you said, we had hand radios and all these good things. But I live in the eastern southern part of the United States. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm sorry I had to bring my southern accent out. But there are some places here with a 5G, 4G cell phone that I cannot get service. But you mean to tell me that I can go out of Earth on the moon, have it filmed, and call President Nixon from the moon on a landline? That has to sound a little preposterous here.
Well, okay, let me address the landline thing first. So the only thing the landline was used for was to connect to Houston. From there, the call was actually routed through several satellite stations in Australia to broadcast that to the moon. And I'm pretty sure the lander itself had radio receiving and broadcasting equipment on it.
You're pretty sure. You're not accurate, but you're pretty sure.
I'd have to look up the exact specifics, but I'm pretty sure that the lander itself had all the radio broadcasting equipment transmitted into it, and it's not unreasonable to say that you could have radio signals go from the moon to Earth because it propagates through a vacuum, and there wouldn't really be anything stopping it.
Okay, go ahead.
With regards to who filmed it, and it was just no one in particular filmed it. It was a remote controlled camera.
Okay, hold
on.
You said
let me get the specifics for it, so I don't get the details wrong. Ask your question.
Now, if this was a remote controlled camera, was this controlled from Houston? And if you said that this wasn't a direct line from the moon to Houston, you said something about them finding coordinates in Australia to where they could pinpoint the proper way to, speak with the president at this point in time. But if you have something remotely controlled from Houston, but you have to call him on a landline through Australia and then to get to Houston, you see what I'm saying? You're going to 3 different coordinates when you're videotaping that's literally going up is from Houston to the moon. And is it still there? Is whatever filmed them, is it still on the moon? They placed a flag in the moon's soil. Is the flag still there?
So yeah, the rovers and stuff were still there, and yeah, so it was actually a camera on one of the rovers. So let me read you an article about it. When Apollo 17 lifted off from the moon, the camera captured the movements of the spacecraft, even though nobody was left behind to, say, establish a lunar base. How was that possible with a camera on the lunar rover that could be controlled or even programmed from Earth? Pretty impressive technology for the takeoff 42 years ago, in 1972, although it took 3 tries to get the technique right. At the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum explains, the camera was available on Apollos 15, 16, and 17. The television camera communicated from Earth using a high-gain antenna on the rover, but there was a slight time delay for the radio.
A antenna?
A high-gain antenna.
Okay.
There was a slight time delay for the radio waves to travel a couple of seconds between the Earth and the Moon, so the engineers suggested moving the rover to a certain distance from the lunar module and setting the camera to automatically tilt to show the lunar liftoff when commanded from Earth. And then this is a quote from one of the NASA engineers. That was the plan, at least. On Apollo 15, the tilt mechanism malfunctioned and the camera never moved upwards, allowing the lunar module to slip out of sight. While the attempt on Apollo 16 gave a longer view of the lunar module rising up, the astronauts actually parked the rover too close to it, which threw off the calculations and timing of the tilt upwards, so it left the view just a few moments into the flight. So it was actually like pre-programmed automatically to do the tilt. Now the way it worked was Harley Weaver, who worked for me, sat down and figured out the trajectory would be and where the lunar rover would be each second as it moved out, and what your settings would go to. The picture you see was taken without looking at it. There was no watching it and doing anything with the picture. As the crew counted down, Cernan counted down, and he knew he had to park in the right place.
So really?
Yeah, so they set the timings up. They parked the rover at a certain distance, knowing that as they took off and the countdown, and they synced it all. So as the lunar module took off, the camera tilted up and using its high gain antenna, broadcast it back to wherever it needed to. So I will put the link to that article in the chat for everybody and yourself to see if you want to.
I'm curious, where did you get that information from? Cite your sources, please.
That was literally the first thing that came up on Google when I searched for it. It's and it's a website I've used a few times called Universe Today, Space and Astronomy News.
Is it .com, .gov, .org? Which one is it?
Well, that's the .com, and it's an article called How NASA Filmed Humans Last Leaving the Moon 42 Years Ago. It's an explanation of how it happened, and within the article there is actually links to other sources, probably from NASA and stuff as well. And it's referenced in the Smithsonian Museum that actually has a lot of the technology on display. So,
okay.
I mean, like I said, I wasn't entirely sure how the function of them recording it happened. I had to look it up. I will admit that, but that technology was perfectly available back then to kind of set that all up.
Right, and you got this from a .com.
Yeah.
.com meaning company, which is subsidized or funded by, could be a government agency, could be.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but it's funded.
I've had 3 .com websites myself, and it was never anything to do with funded. It's .com is literally just a domain that you can choose. When you go to register a website, if you pay more, you can get a .com. That's what a .com is. It just means .com just means that it's kind of a global thing. Will come up on certain searches. I've had 3 different .com websites. Having a .com website doesn't mean that you're a company or government funded or anything. It just means that you've paid that extra bit for that URL.
For that, I understand. Yes. Now, getting back to our original point, there's a camera that's filming the limb moving. So did the limb? I just want to point out, everybody watching this fight, I love this guy to death, but he's wearing a shield T-shirt. He is part of the Flat Earth movement, guys. Mark my words. But so when they left, the camcorder, the camera, it's left on the moon, right? So they went back to Houston, they came back to Earth, but they left the camera on the moon. Mm-hmm. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of equipment that had to be left behind. Like all the rovers and stuff would have all had to have been left behind. And
Okay, so the camcorder, equipment, the rover, and they placed an American flag. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, amateur photographers, the adopted camera from the Flat Earth, I don't even want to say Flat Earth Society because we all know that's a misdirection, but from the Flat Earth community, the adopted camera is the Nikon P90X. Now, if these objects are still on the moon, people are taking these beautiful, these phenomenal pictures of our moon. How come none of these pictures show the American flag? How come none of these pictures show the camcorder that filmed something that was in 1969? And how come none, like right now, you can go to, there's something called Google Moon.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch the moon rover. How come there are no pictures of these amateur photographers taking these gorgeous pictures of the moon, but you don't see any of these pictures with an American flag, a rover, or a camcorder? Where did they go? And why are people taking pictures of these if they're still up there?
Well, the moon's still pretty big, and there is plenty of pictures of well, not obviously not from Earth because we probably can't zoom in that much, but I mean,
well, that's not true.
Russia recently released images from one of their orbiters confirming the American landing and stuff, and I don't think Russia would confirm anything for them. I mean. Yeah,
I'm curious. I'm curious for you to answer that question. If we're because literally you can, if you want to take these pictures as proof, you can Google pictures of the moon, and I mean some of them are so detailed that you can literally see craters to the T. But we didn't go on the dark side of the moon. That's the side of the moon that the Earth can't see. So where we landed, it was a bright side of the moon because quote unquote they took a picture of Earth from the moon. How come none of these amateur photographers have a picture of the flag, the camcorder, or the rover that's taking pictures every day? I just don't understand that. Because the pictures that are coming from the rover they're lighted up from the sun. So that means the rover has to have some sunlight on it. So if you can go outside right now and take a picture of the moon, show me the rover.
Yeah,
Why is it not shown?
you literally would need some kind of incredible zoom that we don't have to resolve something that small on the moon. The moon is still massive. Like let's have a look. The average crater on the moon.
God, I wish
well, one of them is 2,500 kilometers across. So a lot of the craters on the moon are absolutely massive. So yeah, we can see the craters on the moon, but we're not going to be able to zoom in and look at the flag that was planted on the moon. We just don't. I mean, I'm not a photographer, but I'm pretty sure the kind of zoom technology that is not available for that. But someone corrected me. It was. Oh wait, actually, someone's just said you would need a telescope with a 100-meter mirror to resolve the landing sites. It's a pretty simple calculation.
Okay. All right, let's keep that in mind. What did you say? 100-meter telescope to do what now?
Yeah, you'd need a telescope with a 100-meter mirror.
Okay. But I'm sure everyone knows the infamous picture that came from NASA.gov, the face on Mars. So we can get a picture of a rock the size of a speaker on Mars, but we can't get a picture of a rover on the moon, which is a lot closer to Earth. How is it that we can get a picture of a rock on Mars, but we can't get a picture of a rover on the moon? How is that possible?
Yeah, that picture on Mars wasn't taken from Earth. Let me just get the details of the face on Mars.
Wherever it was taken from, if they have that technology, that camera technology in space, I'm sure we have that on Earth, wouldn't?
The face on Mars was taken by NASA's Viking spacecraft in 1976. So yeah, it was
76.
Yeah. If that's when I Googled the face on Mars, that's the one that comes up. And I mean, that's not even really good quality when you look at the actual picture.
But listen to what I'm saying. That's a rock on Mars. In 1976 it was taken.
Yeah, but it wasn't taken from Earth. It wasn't taken from Earth. It was taken from a spacecraft.
Which is in Earth's gravitational pull, if you want to call it that. Is it in our Earth's orbit?
I don't think Viking. Well, NASA Viking.
Well, if it's not in Earth orbit, then it's basically a floating object in space. The point I'm trying to make is even if the camera's not on Earth, if it's out of Earth's orbit, even if it's on the moon comparison from the Earth to the moon, comparison from the moon to Mars is a way bigger distance. So how is it that they can take a picture of a face of a rock in 1976, but they can't do that to take a picture of a rover on the moon?
I mean,
you have to kind of agree with me. That does sound a little bit
no. Okay, so there's many things that you're not taking into account. The face on Mars, that's not a rock. That's literally a mountain. Like, it's a really massive mountain.
Okay.
We have
been a crater on the moon.
Yeah, it's a mountain. It's humongous. We have spacecraft outside of Earth's orbit, many of them. They all take photos of lots of stuff. We have stuff orbiting Mars that take photos. So yeah, you're kind of comparing apples to oranges here. Of course we can take photos of stuff on Mars with stuff that we've put out there to be able to do that. And there's a lot of problems that you're not really thinking about. Like, if you're trying to say, oh, you should be able to take a photo of the moon landing site from Earth. I mean, not only would you need like a humongous mirror in a telescope to be able to do that, but resolving that image would be an issue. It wouldn't. The technology.
Take all that out of the point. There's a rover on the moon, right?
Yeah, there's a few.
How come we haven't seen any pictures of the camcorder on the moon? If there's a rover, you don't need it. The rover's sending back HD high, quote unquote.
So that would have had a battery life that wouldn't have been very long. I mean, the equipment, the rover on the moon that was left there by the astronauts to take the video of the LM leaving, that would have had a battery life. It wouldn't have just had an infinite power source that could broadcast forever. None of the equipment that was left on the moon would be functioning now. And when you ask for pictures of the landing site and everything, there has been plenty of them. I was corrected; it wasn't Russia; it was China that recently took a really good image of the landing site with one of their orbiters. I mean, there's also experiments that's done all the time by physics students all around the world when you can bounce lasers off of the retroreflectors left on the moon, and we know the speed of light. So we know how long light would take to go from the moon to Earth, and we know the intensity of the light that comes back, so we know that it's hit something other than just the lunar surface. So and the retroreflectors have been there since they were put there by the astronauts, and there's so many independent verifications from so many sources. We don't even have to talk about NASA to be able to verify that the moon landings actually happened.
I understand, but I hate to sound like I need a definite answer. That's not what I'm saying. But you mentioned battery life. I'm not talking about the rovers that landed in 1969. Right now, you can go to Google Moon and see live pictures. Quote unquote, I hate to keep doing that, but I have to say that if these are really live pictures, right now there is a rover on the moon that's moving around while me and you are sitting here talking. Okay. Don't you think that? Well, let me finish. Don't you think that and I'm sure NASA's not even thinking about the flat Earth community or thinking, oh, why would you want to see the flag? Why would you want to see the camcorder? Why would you want to see the landing site? But you don't see, if there's a live rover on there now, just to shut us up, let us see the landing site. Because apparently
So the main thing about that I could say is it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever you to put a rover on the moon, right? If we want to go and
there's one on the moon.
No, bear with me for 1 sec, right? Say we want to go and put a brand new rover on the moon, right? It's going to cost millions of dollars to go and do it. What do we want that rover to go and do? Do we want it to go and take a picture of a flag of a place we've already been, or do we want it to go to an unexplored area of the moon and take some new photos? Why are NASA none of the rovers are going to be anywhere near the NASA landing sites, because it would be pointless to send technology to the moon to look at something we've already done. So
I disagree. I disagree. Because earlier you said that was one of mankind's greatest achievement. If you were offered to go to the moon, even though there's a 50-50 chance, the words that came out of your mouth, while you have children and a family, a wife, you would take that. So don't you think the biggest accomplishment of mankind's history, wouldn't you like to see a live picture of that? Like,
maybe in the future. Maybe in the future, but there's been live pictures of it. You know, NASA aren't interested in showing people what happened back then. It might be what some people want to see, but the people that are paying for this stuff to happen, they don't care about going and looking at a flag. So, it's not important to them. The important thing to NASA and all the private companies that are doing stuff in space is to advance. They don't care if anyone believes the moon landings happened or not. It's really not on the radar in the slightest. And maybe in the future, as technology increases and there's more and more things, maybe there will be at some point someone will go, oh, look, there is the thing in real time and you can use VR and go and look at it. But right now, that's not important. And what's important is...
You say that, though, but why do people go visit the Liberty Bell in America? Why do people go visit Big Ben? Because this is history. This is something that's been done. A lot of people on Earth are fascinated by our history. Oh, man, I would love to be able to pull my phone up and show my kid that has a science project. This is where the moon or where the LEM landed in 1969, right here. Here's a picture. You have to admit that sounds a little weird.
No, not really. Not especially when you look at after the moon landings and stuff. General funding and interest in space exploration beyond low Earth orbit was just lost. No one cared anymore. The funding wasn't there. The public interest wasn't there. So for the past 50 years, the focus of space travel has been to see what we can do in low Earth orbit. More not expand. It's more to do experiments in. That's why we have the ISS. Is to see how space travel and being in space will affect everyone. And now we're at the stage where there's a lot of interest in going back to the moon, and technology has advanced so much. We can land rockets backwards, for fuck's sake. We can literally send rockets up and then watch them come back down and land backwards in unison. And
that looks like the fakest videos ever. But go ahead,
dude. Red's Rhetoric filmed those personally.
Yeah, I've heard of personal testimonies that I've seen it done, but they just look a little weird, and it doesn't seem like. But
my point was that we are going back now. That NASA have said 2024. I don't know if that's exactly going to happen. Whether Trump's a bit ambitious or not, who knows? These things take time, but we are going back, and not only that. But I think in the next couple of years, you'll be able to literally book nights on the ISS if you've got the money. You can take like a 7-day holiday, on the ISS, and there's commercial spaceflight coming, and all this. NASA currently and other agencies are going through the process of looking at what it would take to colonize Mars. The reason we're going back to the moon now is so that we can set up a permanent base as a launching point for other places. Right. It's more that it would be easier to launch missions from the moon than Earth, because you don't need as much fuel and stuff to get out of the moon's gravity as you do as Earth. And if you can build technology and use the resources on the moon and have that as a base to launch into space, it would be better in the long run. But so
okay. You brought up something that actually led into myself. We're obviously not going to see eye to eye on them not taking a picture of our original landing on the moon. People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for an original penny, American penny. You would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the first American penny. You don't think we would? It's free. Well, we're not going to charge you anything. Actually, it's not free because the reason they're going to the moon is because of our taxpayers' money. But let's take all that out of the equation. We're not going to see eye to eye on that. We haven't been, first of all, the first 6 moon missions were directed by Wernher von Braun, who was a known Nazi, Hitler's right-hand man. he was best friends, if not, maybe not best friends, but very close friends with Walt Disney. Now, I know it sounds crazy, bro. I don't, guys, I promise y'all, I do not want to believe any of this. I just have questions. This sounds preposterous coming out of my mouth. Why is it that, okay, when we came back, oh, we've got all the data. This is how you do this. This is what you need to come back. This is the ones and zeros, the telemetry data. This is what we had physically in our hand. Okay, a few years later, oh man, we're in the NASA warehouse. Oh hey, there's Chad's 14th birthday party. Oh hey, there's Dave's bachelor party. Let's keep those, but let's delete the telemetry data, the most important achievement of mankind's history. They delete it. Why have we not been back to the moon since 1972? It's 2019 and we haven't been back since 72.
Okay. So, right, the most of the data wasn't lost.
The telemetry was, and that was from a NASA employee's mouth. We would love to get back to the moon, but we can't. That's
yeah, you're talking about the technology. That's a different discussion for what he was particularly saying, and that's been kind of taken out of context many times. But what was the next thing you said after?
You'll have to explain.
Right. Okay. So
I said.
Right, let's talk about what the NASA engineer said with regards to, I'd go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but we don't have the technology. We've destroyed it, and it would be, a hard process to rebuild it, right? That's what you're talking about.
Before you answer, he said we destroyed it. Why would you destroy the most exceptional thing in human history? Why would you do that?
Right. So what he's really talking about is the means to kind of make that technology anymore. So if I asked you to get me a piece for an original 1955 Chevy, that would be impossible at this point because the tools to make those parts don't exist anymore. So
that's so crazy you say that because I'm actually a mechanic. I work on cars. I could actually get you those parts, but go ahead.
But I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, it would be a difficult process to kind of get to make a from scratch same as it came out in 1955 Chevy today. The technology to make that would have to be made, or it would have to be done by hand. So yeah, we destroyed a lot of the machining technology because it became obsolete. A lot of let's say you've got a big ass rocket sitting around that you're not going to use again. What are you going to do? Just waste a lot of space, or are you going to scrap it and use the materials?
But the telemetry data.
Most of the telemetry data wasn't lost. That whole thing is a myth in itself that I need to look into in particular and talk about where it's been misinterpreted. Moon landing stuff isn't my specialty. Actually, if you want to check out a channel that talks a lot about the moon, if you check out Casual Spaceman. He's actually got an Apollo 11 week coming up. Casual Spaceman, if you I know you're there, if you want to put the link to your channel in the chat, everyone can check you out. He's probably a lot more knowledgeable about the moon landings and the particular technology than me. But in regards to them saying, oh, we destroyed the technology, he literally didn't mean they just destroyed it and hid it. It's just, it was obsolete. We didn't need it anymore. And to have that technology that was functional to go to the moon, it would be a bitch to actually build it back. Build it back. So they've developed new technology instead. Okay. I've got actually an answer from Casual Spaceman here. The Apollo 11 missing tapes were those that were recorded from the Apollo 11 slow scan television decals. The data itself was not deleted.
Okay, I heard different from, unless he was a shill, which the shirt you're wearing, from NASA. But okay, you're saying that why hold on to such a large object that it's basically obsolete now? But they send a rover within the past 20 years, way past 1972. If they sent a rover back, why not send a human back with it? I mean, if we have the
as I explained, the funding to be able to have the technology to
$53 million a day.
Okay, right. The money itself actually, it costs a lot of money to do what they do. They've got 18,000 employees that they need to pay, and they don't just sit around all day smoking weed and having fun with hookers. They all 18,000 people all have a job at NASA, and they all have to go and do these jobs that are towards putting things in space. So and putting a probe in space, the research and development, fuel for rockets, these all cost millions upon millions upon millions of dollars.
Okay, so let me give you 53 millions of that a day. You don't think that's enough?
No,
we should get off the moon.
Okay, that's fine. I would seriously suggest checking out Casual Spaceman's channel here for a lot more on the moon landing. He's in the chat at the moment as well, so he can put a link to his channel.
Yeah.
He's a lot more knowledgeable on the moon landing and stuff than I am. But I can talk about the technology and stuff itself, and that's fine. But yeah, let's move off of the moon landing and see what other questions you have.
Okay, just curious. You said, man, I hate to. This will be my last question, but you said, maybe when Trump is interested in going back. You live in Ireland, correct?
Scotland. Yeah.
Why are you interested of Trump going back? What about your president, your prime minister, or your queen? Why are you worried about America's president to go back?
I'm not worried about it. It's just NASA. America's got a bigger space program than UK. I mean, we're part of the European Space Agency, and they've got their own missions going on. But I was just talking about what Trump said and the fact that he wants to put NASA back on the moon by 2024. I don't really have any vested interest in that. I would love to see NASA succeed. I was just bringing it up because Trump is the current president and he's the one that's making all these demands. Although, from a recent tweet from Trump, I'm not sure if he knows the difference between the moon and Mars. And I'm not even kidding, guys. Honestly, just Google Trump doesn't know the difference between the moon and Mars.
He really doesn't, guys. Go check that out, please.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get to. I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Okay.
These are some experience. Okay. This isn't something that I've done on my own, but I'm curious about how this would work. Okay. Let's say, okay, I don't know if you're watching, but let's say me and you are on this spaceship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're leaving the moon, right?
Yeah.
Now this is the Earth. So we're in this spaceship and we're coming back from the moon onto Earth, right?
Yeah.
So if we're this way and Antarctica is at the very bottom of the Earth, if we wanted to land in Antarctica, at what point would we have to go up or turn upside down to land on the bottom? Or Australia? If we're coming in face up horizontally, at what point would we need to turn over to land at the bottom?
I mean,
how does that happen?
Is the point that you do it really relevant?
Yes, it is. If me and you are in a car driving,
I suppose they would do it so that they were in the right orientation as they entered the atmosphere. I mean, turning the spacecraft around isn't really a problem.
I think you misinterpreted what I said.
Yeah.
Antarctica's at the bottom of the Earth. If we're coming in like this, yes, okay. If we're coming into this Earth right now, at what point do I turn over to land at the bottom part of it? How do I land on Antarctica, which is at the very bottom of that Earth? How do I land there? Because
gravity, down is relative, right? So the first thing to think about is that down is relative. Down is always directly towards this, no matter which way you are. If you're here, you're not upside down, because down is towards the center of this, no matter where you are. So that spaceship, it's being pulled towards, it's going towards the planet, all right? And it doesn't matter where it turns, as long as it's in the right orientation when it enters the atmosphere. Then it's going to be, go in.
You saw how you just had your finger like that. So at what point does it do that?
I mean, it doesn't really matter what it could do it here. It could do it here. It could do it here. It doesn't matter really when it does it. I mean, the space shuttle is like basically a plane. It's got wings, so it's got to use aerodynamics to land and stuff. So it's got to be in the right orientation by the time it gets into the atmosphere. Is the best answer I can give you.
Okay, so again, being on the moon, and if we're on the moon looking at Earth, and if Earth, let's say people are on Antarctica, if we have a high power telescope on the moon and we're looking back at the moon, if we point our telescope at Antarctica, is there going to be people literally upside down?
If you had something powerful enough to be able to see that, from your perspective, they would appear to be upside down. Yes, but again, down is relative. Upside down,
Relative.
yeah, upside down isn't a thing in space. Down,
Okay.
all right, so if you're on the moon, right, down for you is towards the center of the moon. But that doesn't mean that down for people on the Earth is towards the center of the moon. Down for people on the Earth, no matter where they are, is towards the center of the Earth. You know, up and down are relative directions. Down, the best way to describe down is towards gravity. Yeah. So if you had a telescope powerful enough to be able to look at Antarctica from the moon, then and you could see people, then yes, they would appear to be upside down from your perspective.
Let me stop you there. So let's say we hop onto the limb and we come back to the moon. So this whole time I'm driving the limb, and the whole time you're looking at Antarctica through this telescope. So from your perspective, people look upside down. You just said that.
Yeah.
So if we're driving and you're continuously looking at it, so if we're driving and you're looking at it, at what point do those people turn right side up?
When
you know what I mean?
You do.
So when does that happen is my question.
Right, give me 1 second. I'm going to put on my Xbox, and this is actually going to help me. Trust me, I'm not making this up.
Yeah, I'm all ears, bro. If I seem a little combative, I'm sorry. I had a long day today. But
It's cool, man. Right, give me just 1 sec. I need to go turn my Xbox on, and I'm going to capture the screen, and I'm going to put on a game in space and help you visualize it.
Okay, can't wait. Chat, what's up, guys? In here, you guys go to the channel, youtube.com/Hollywood6. We do conspiracy podcasts. We post one every week. We do reactions. I'm a rapper, so is my half of the Trash Talker, and we do all these great things that I'm sure you guys would enjoy. I could do a freestyle right here, right now. You know, I'm sitting in this chair, but I probably need a pill. My dude named Fight got a shirt that says "Shield."
Okay.
Hey, and I'm about to lose my mind. Here he goes. I'm about to speak some nonsense one more time. Hey, should I keep going? If the world was a sphere, then why is water keep flowing? And it said, "Yep, we're back."
Okay. All right. Bear with me.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess screen capture on.
See, I'm looking at it like you are an intelligent person, right?
Thank you.
Have knowledge. You should not have to pull up your Xbox to just give me a simple explanation.
Well, it's more about helping you visualize it. Is the issue is explaining it, and I feel that if I can help you visualize it, then it would all be a lot better. Just bear with me while I get it on the screen.
Okay.
Right.
By the way, all my trash talkers in here, guys, go subscribe. I got a lot of people watching. Got to give a shout out to Smokey, Mom, love you, Matt Lincoln, Joe Allison, Steven. Thanks for showing up. And guys, we are recording a podcast tonight, and you guys should check it out. It's going to be very interesting, similar to this one.
So this is a first one for me, playing the Xbox Live on stream. This is a game called No Man's Sky.
Great game.
Yeah. It should load into my fleet, and we can have a look at a planet from space and try and help you visualize what we're talking about. I get to play Xbox whilst we're doing this. It's fun.
Oh, it reminds me of Destiny, dude. That looks just like Destiny.
Alright, let's go get one of my ships.
My boy Fight had to pull the Xbox out and said, "You gonna see this visualization."
Alright.
Okay, so we're in this right now. I'm driving. You're looking through the telescope. Okay, now look at the bottom of Earth. Now, according to you, the people are upside down. So I'm curious, at what point do those people turn right side up?
Okay. So, yeah. So if you're looking at this planet, right? So you're looking at the bottom there. Right? And you want to land over there. Oh, I'll get away from these ships so I can actually do it. So you're looking over here and you want to land on the bottom of that planet, right?
Okay.
Now it's the top.
Okay. So at what point did you do that? Now land.
Right. Okay. So it's upside down. Right. Let's go towards the planet and go into the atmosphere.
Or you could turn back upside down. That's fine. Turn back upside down if you can.
So yeah.
Now how do you, okay? Go ahead.
Now let's actually get to the planet so you can see what I mean.
Dude, I haven't played that game in a while. You got me reminiscing. Okay, so now you're heading towards Antarctica.
Let's say at this point, yeah, you're still at the bottom, right? And I'm just about to go into the atmosphere. Now okay. I turn over, and I'm at the right orientation. It really doesn't matter where that happened. You know,
so at
now,
some point you have to turn upside down.
Yeah, at some point you would have to change the orientation. But now I'm in the planet's atmosphere.
Right. But at some point you have to turn upside down. So everything that was on your spaceship on the ground flips over. So now your coffee mug that was sitting on the table is now on the ceiling.
Well, again, relative directions you have to understand. If you've got a coffee mug in that spaceship, it's just always going to be down for you. I mean, like right now, I'm upside down, right, relative to this planet.
Okay.
Right, but it's a relative direction because I could just fly straight up, and I'm in space.
Now turn upside down.
All right.
Now your coffee mug has.
Now, at this point, because I'm in the planet's gravity, my coffee mug would be on the ceiling. But the point, see, the point I'm making is that it's all relative. And even though it now looks like I'm on the top, I can go off into space. And if I turn around, I'm at the bottom of the planet again. It's just a point of a relative direction.
Okay.
See, so when they did that wasn't important. All right, so I'm gonna stop playing Xbox now because I could literally do that all day. Yeah. So does that help you visualize what I was talking about?
Kind of. It does give a visual clarity to it. It just, I don't know. It just seems weird that if I have this can and I'm driving and I turn over, then that's gonna be. I don't know. Maybe it's just hard for me to wrap my brain around. I understand the relativity. Yeah,
you just have to think about it's relative. You know, if you're on the Earth, down is towards the Earth. If you're on the Moon, down is towards the Moon. If you're in space with nothing around, there isn't really an up or down. It's just kind of relative to you. Okay? Casual Spaceman, that game is called No Man's Sky, and
great game.
I would have probably started this channel 6 months earlier if it wasn't for that game.
He was addicted to playing it.
Yeah.
It looked really good, really similar to Destiny. I don't know if you ever played Destiny.
Yeah, I played a lot of Destiny as well. There's a lot of kind of collecting stuff, but it's a lot more involved than Destiny.
Destiny 1 or Destiny 2? What'd you play?
I played both of them. I maxed out everything on Destiny 1 and 2, but I got bored because there was no content. Then got excited about Anthem, and then that was terrible as well.
Right. Just curious, we'll get back onto the Flat Earth, but how excited were you when you got your first Gallahorn?
Yeah. and then Zer just gives it away every weekend.
Yeah. That's some shards. Okay, here's some experience, and you've done a great job of explaining some things. I'm not going to say I completely agree or completely understand 100% what you're saying, but you seem to be explaining it better than from what I've heard. And you actually pulling up the visualization on the Xbox to actually show me that definitely shows some merit to it. Okay, here's an experiment, 2 experiments that I've done on my own.
Okay.
Let's start with the first one. I was born in Florence, South Carolina. South Carolina has a very beautiful, popular beach called Myrtle Beach, right?
Yeah.
Now, once I got into the whole flat Earth movement and just questioning things, according to NASA, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, you can't see curvature unless you're well over 100,000 miles or feet above Earth's sea level, right?
Okay.
Okay. So if I'm on the ground at Myrtle Beach and I see a ship disappear, mainstream science says that boat just went over the horizon. Now, I saw, according to science, it says you just saw that boat go over the horizon. But at the same time, they say you don't see curvature unless you're 100,000 feet above Earth ground. So how am I seeing something but I pull out a pair of binoculars and there's that boat again. Then it goes out of my binoculars view. Then I pull out a telescope. Oh, there goes that boat again. So is it going over the horizon or is it just going from the perspective of my human eyesight?
So,
you know what I mean? Like,
there's a difference between seeing curvature and seeing the effects of curvature. Okay, so yeah, you can't go to the beach and see the side-to-side curvature. You need to be, really high up to be able to see that. Sometimes if the visibility is really good, you can see a slight curve if you're in a plane that's high enough, but it's going to be very, very, very slight. To be able to see the curve properly, you need to be really, really, really high up. But in regards to, wrong one, sorry, saying that you can pull things back, that you can't, if something's actually gone over the horizon, that's when you can't pull it back. If it's got too small for you to see, i.e. the angular resolution has got too small, then you won't be able to bring it back. But as this picture demonstrates, you can see the boat in the front is pretty much sitting on the horizon, but you've got a boat that is the same make, obviously, as this one, just over the horizon behind it. And you can see the masts, and that shows you that it's not just perspective or whatever, because the whole thing would disappear in totality if it just got too small to see. It's showing you there that there.
The boat that I'm looking at in the background, is that over the curve?
Yes, partly. Anyway.
Okay. Now, how am I seeing that when I'm not able to see that from 100,000 feet in the air? How am I able to see that from the ground, but I'm not able to see that 100,000 feet in the air? And if you pull out a high-powered telescope, that boat that's in the back would come back into view.
Okay, so the boat in the background would never come back into view. Now, let me get the actual video that's from to demonstrate
I know exactly which video that's from.
From Dazza the cameraman. So you'd know that it wouldn't bring it back into view then, right?
Okay, go ahead. See, there's a lot of variables that are missing from this. Where was he standing? What kind of telescope is he using? What kind of camera is he using?
I'm pretty sure he was using a P900 or P1000.
Again, keyword pretty sure.
Yeah, let me just get the... I've used this argument many times. Okay, there we go. Dazza the cameraman. All right, let me just get that up so you can see it. One sec. Web browser, URL. Okay. let me switch this over so you can see it. Oh, wrong button. Shush.
Did you just tell me to
I'm
shut
professional,
No.
and my website should be too. I just need to pick the right image. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I didn't tell you to shush. I was telling the computer to shush. Right, so this is the video that it came from, and he is using a P1000 with a 125 times optical zoom. So, and this, the image, so this boat here is, you know, that's this shot but zoomed in basically. And as we go on, he shows that he's zooming into the boats, all right?
Katsarian in the chat, yes, it does matter what camera, because you could have a Kodak film camera. It's not going to take the same resolution, the same quality, the same zoom as a Nikon P90X.
Right, so what he's done here, right, he's taken a screenshot of when it's far out, okay? And, right, so the box at the bottom is from when it was zoomed out, right, and he's taken a screenshot and zoomed that in himself, and the picture that it's on is of the camera actually zoomed in. And what that shows is that the act of actually zooming in will do nothing to the proportion of the ship. Zooming in will not bring it back over the horizon. If the claim was that zooming in enough would bring this boat in the background back into the horizon, then the act of zooming in would show some change between these two pictures, which it doesn't. So the only way that you can bring things back is if it is too small to see and you have a zoom that is good enough to actually bring it back into view. But what will never ever happen is that if a boat has gone over the horizon, you will never be able to bring it back.
From the perspective of the human eyesight, though?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying about angular resolution. If these boats were a lot smaller, then, you know, like, for instance, right, if you look back at the beginning, you can barely tell that there's any boats there at all. All right? So as far as you're concerned with your eyes, you can just about make out the boat that was in the foreground, but as far as you're concerned with your eyes, the other boat's completely disappeared. But when you zoom in, you see it hasn't completely disappeared. It is partly there. But that didn't bring it back over the horizon. That just increased the resolution for you to see it better.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so from my human eyesight, with the equation of curvature, 8 inches per.
There we go.
Per inches, yeah. With that being said, and looking at this from my eyesight, if I'm looking at it, did it go over a curve? I just want to know. Yes or no. If I'm looking at it and it goes, what?
If it goes out of your sight, you won't know if it's gone over a curve or not unless you zoom into it. If you can zoom into it and then it brings it back, it didn't go over the curve. But if you zoom into it and you can say only bring part of it back, then it hasn't gone over the horizon yet. If something has gone over the horizon, no amount of zooming will bring it back into view. If it's too small to see but hasn't gone over the horizon, then that's fine. And in regards to the 8 inches per mile squared thing, that's not correct. That is not the curvature formula for Earth. That is an approximation that works round about to 100 miles and was actually first made.
If you Google how to calculate the curvature of the Earth, I'm pretty sure it says 8 inches per mile squared.
Well, the formula is actually a parabola. So it's just one mathematical function, so it can never curve back on itself. And it's accurate for about 100 miles. After that, it's completely useless. The person that first said that it was the curvature for the Earth was actually Samuel Rowbotham, a flat earther back in the 1800s, who misread it from a section in the Britannica Encyclopedia under a heading of leveling. It's used by ground surveyors to approximate drop over a relative distance, but it doesn't. It's not the curvature for Earth. It is just an approximation.
Again, I'm just asking questions here, guys. I'm telling you, I get ridiculed about this on a daily basis.
That's fine. I'm cool. Like I said, questions is absolutely fine.
So what is the curvature? What is the measurement? Give me a formula that I can use, that I can dictate for myself, that gives me a solid proven final definitive answer for the curvature of the Earth? Because I've always thought it was 8 inches per mile squared.
I've got the actual calculation written down. Where is it?
8 inches what?
Right, so the formula is H equals R times 1 minus cos A. And that is when you have to take into account your observer height and everything. So using that formula, it is... Let me actually get the page up so you can see. Right, desktop capture. There we go. I need to increase the... so you can see it. One sec. Have you got the stream up? It'll look better on the actual stream. So
yeah, I'm looking at it.
Let me zoom in a bit so that everyone can see that. Yeah, the actual formula is this bit here. H equals R times 1 minus cos A, and that's accurate for any distance and takes into account observer height. So that is the actual formula, not 8 inches per mile squared. Again, that is accurate for, within 100 miles is pretty much accurate. But the further you go, it gets progressively less accurate. If you were to map out 8 inches per mile squared for the diameter of the Earth, you would end up with a distance 3 times the diameter of Earth away from Earth, because that formula is a parabola. It's not a circle, basically.
Right. All right. Again, I don't. I'm just asking questions here.
Yeah, that's fine.
To get off of that, you're familiar with Admiral Byrd's story, correct?
Kind of. I've never looked into it properly.
Well, there's an interview of him. He was one of the youngest naval flight instructors to go to Antarctica and basically explore this unmanned area, and came back and said, you don't think it's a little weird that there is a landmass about 2 to 3 times larger than North America, and people aren't exploring this? We're not mining this for gold, oil, all these resources. But once they found out that an independent flight engineer went there by himself and recorded some amazing data, he comes back, and then all of a sudden, a few years later, you have the United Nations, where basically every country has made a treaty to where no independent travel can go to this place. I just think that's a little weird. Right.
So no independent travel. That is just false. There is actually...
You can go to the outskirts.
No. There's actually you can literally book holidays to the South Pole. There's many companies that will take you on excursions to the South Pole. That you literally Google people that have walked across Antarctica. They weren't taken there by a government. Yeah, it's not this great unexplored area. The Antarctica Treaty is literally put in place to say that no country will ever lay claim to Antarctica or use it for military purposes. There is areas off limit for scientific research, absolutely, 100%. No one's ever going to deny that. But it's not like if you start walking about in Antarctica, you're going to get jumped by some mutant penguins with MA-40s,
Let's be realistic. I mean, but if you do have a treaty signed by just about every country on Earth, there has to be some military personnel there that's guarding it. I mean, what are they guarding? Why is it? Why? Now, you said that you could go there, but I've never, and I've traveled all over the world, man. I've been to almost every continent on Earth. And how come no one ever flies over, or I guess under Antarctica? Why is that the reason? Maybe there's...
okay, so let's say the main reason why no one really flies over Antarctica is because there's no air routes that would require that. When you look at Antarctica, on the bottom, sorry, not the bottom, the south. Up is not north and south is not down. So there's no countries kind of around it. So
Australia?
Yeah, but if you want to get to Australia, which is here, At what point
Okay.
is it useful for you to then fly over Antarctica? There's not really anything there unless you want to go directly to South America. But
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's say you wanted to
most
go from Australia
most of
to South America.
so
Wouldn't that be a more fuel efficient way to go than going completely around the Earth versus taking a straight line? The closest way to 2 points is a straight line.
not really. When you think about where they have to go and dangers of flying over Antarctica for a start, it's going to be there's going to be weather conditions or whatever. But when you look at the southern hemisphere, there's not actually that many land masses, so that means less people. So there isn't as many flights, which means to economize kind of fuel and everything, they're going to have to go and pick people up on the way. And there's also a thing called cribbage, or I'm not sure, but basically it says that only countries, airlines from particular countries are allowed to have direct routes from those
Like
countries.
to and from it.
Yeah, so the need to fly over the Antarctica isn't there. It wouldn't be beneficial to anyone. It wouldn't make economical sense. There's no flight routes that would help. I mean, that's all there is to say about that, really. There is really no need to just fly it over, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been people flying over there.
I've never heard of it. Have you ever heard of, with all these millionaires and billionaires that we have in this earth, how come no one says, you know what, I'm going to shut everyone on Earth who thinks that we live on a flat, motionless plane, I'm going to shut all you guys up. I'm going to get on a flight, and I'm going to fly over it, and I'm going to film all of it. How come no one's ever done that? I mean, maybe they just don't care that there is a community of flat earthers that think that this could be a possibility.
Okay.
But you would make headlines. You would be one of the most famous people on Earth. Such and such just flew over Antarctica, debunking flat Earth. Why would you not do that? And again, you could easily say, well, why would you be on the moon and take a picture of the landing site or the the flag? Wow.
I just quickly looked this up, and yeah, there is routes that actually go from Australia to South America, and they would, as you can see from these routes, there is literally no point to fly directly over the middle of Antarctica. There's going to be some that just skim the edges. On the northern hemisphere, where there's a shit more landmass and people, you've got Canada, North America, and Russia, all pretty much right near. There's going to be a lot more flights around that area. But the southern hemisphere, there's literally no reason to fly over Antarctica.
I could be a huge skeptic right now and say all this is controlled opposition. It's just stuff to make you believe what's not right in front of your face.
Well, then you would have to give evidence, because there's, you can track airline flights.
It's what you were told. It's what you were indoctrinated to. This is what you've been told your entire life.
Okay.
Santa Claus exists. Go ahead.
That's the thing that you have to do, is confirm these things and look at reasons why that they are. And you can go on FAA websites and track where flights are and stuff, and you could probably watch in real time as flights do that. And unless the people on that flight are also lying, then it's nothing's being hidden. Or
well, I don't think they know that they're lying. They're just being even the people that are telling them, they don't know. It's just what you've been taught.
So are you saying that a pilot would not know that he is flying over a particular area?
Well, show me one pilot that flew over Antarctica. Show me that pilot. And I know you say that there's no economical reason to do so, but if you had, with all these funds and abundant millionaires and billionaires we have, you would think one person would shut up the entire flat Earth community by just flying over Antarctica. Even if it's a 6-hour journey, an 18-hour journy, I would watch the whole thing. To get off of this, you know how you
Let's
can
see if there is. I'm pretty sure that I saw a video. Carry on. Yeah, carry on. I'm just going to see if I can find.
I don't want to get into it. I'm curious to see what you're about to show me. I want to get onto another topic.
Okay, right. So, yeah. This is. Where is it? There we go. Flying over Antarctica. Qantas Flight 63, Sydney to Johannesburg. 2010. I'll just.
I mean, you're just reading something. You don't know if that could be.
But this is literally a video of them doing it, flying over Antarctica, and it's a flight. The actual flight, so you could check the records to see if it did do as it said. But there you go, and there's them showing where they are. On the equipment on the plane. So there's video of flying over Antarctica.
I hate to sound like this person, but that could literally be anywhere. I mean, that could be anywhere. But to get off of the Antarctica, let's get off of that.
Okay.
The Earth, another question I have. The Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour on its axis, correct?
At the equator, the angular velocity is about 1,040 miles an hour, yeah.
Okay, now the International Space Station is spinning at about 17,000 miles an hour, correct?
It's orbiting, I think, about 17,000 kilometers an hour. I think so. Okay. In fact, Red's Rhetoric calculated the actual speed of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I want my numbers to be correct here because, like I said, I'm just asking questions. So, if the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour, and then we have something, orbiting it at 17,000 miles an hour, apparently every 3 to 6 months they send new astronauts into the International Space Station to bring people back, bring supplies, bring food, medical equipment, things like that. Mm-hmm. So once we leave Earth that's going 1,000 miles an hour, how do we dock onto something that's going 17,000 miles an hour? At what point do you pull out of 1,000 and just, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you land on something going 17,000 miles an hour, basically?
You match the speed, and if you're also going you understand speed is relative, right? So if all right, so let me put it to you like this: if you are in a car going 50 miles an hour, and there's a car right next to you also going 50 miles an hour, relative to you, that car is not moving, right?
Now let me throw you out of that car.
That's not. I'm just trying to explain relative speeds.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And that's what I'm saying. So once you get up into low Earth orbit, you would then get yourself into the same orbit as the ISS, match the speed, and then dock because you're both then moving at the same speed. I mean, we know where the ISS is. We know the orbit that it's doing. So they just calculate to match the orbital velocity.
So how do you do that? There's nothing you can in order to push off of something in Earth. When a rocket's leaving, the rocket fuel it's all pushing off of gravity. So
right.
What is it pushing off of in space? There's nothing to push off.
There's a fundamental disconnect there. No, rockets do not push off of the air. That's not how they work.
It's a thruster. It's thrusting itself, correct?
Yeah, but the thrust isn't coming from pushing against the atmosphere. The thrust is actually created within the combustion chamber inside the rocket itself. It creates a differential in pressure, which expels mass out the back, which means that because of conservation of momentum, Newton laws of movement mean that something's come out, so you have to go the other way. There's nothing about pushing off of the atmosphere. The thrust itself is created in a particular nozzle, I cannot remember the name of it, that actually makes the expelling gases go from a subsonic to a supersonic speed. And that change in momentum creates like internal pressures, which is what creates the force against the inside of the combustion chamber, which pushes the entire rocket. Yeah. So you don't need an atmosphere to push against to actually propel the rocket.
So now once we leave this atmosphere and we're in Earth's outer layer, to where the International Space Station is, what are we thrusting on?
That's what I'm saying. You're not thrusting off of anything. The thrust is created inside the combustion chamber. The rocket is essentially pushing off of itself. It's creating a difference in pressure inside the combustion chamber, and then it goes through the nozzle, which makes the gases go from a subsonic to a supersonic speed, increasing the pressure differential, which creates a force on the inside of the combustion chamber, which makes it move. So
once it leaves, Earth's atmosphere, what's pushing the International Space Station?
Nothing's pushing the International Space Station. It's in an orbit.
It's just in our orbit. Okay.
Yeah. It's
so
in.
Once we leave our atmosphere going at such an exponential rate, do all the engines just cut? Because there's video where it shows the thrusters just dropping into the ocean. Once it gets up high enough, the thrusters come off and just. So
those are first stage.
Navigate?
Those are first stage boosters.
I'm curious, how do you, if something's going at this exponential rate, how do you, once your thrusters have landed into the ocean, how does it land on, like, literally dock onto something going 17,000 miles an hour?
Right. So the first stage boosters of a rocket are there to get it, into space, to get it away from Earth. You need a fuck ton of force to try and escape Earth's gravity and get up there. Although you haven't really escaped Earth's gravity when you're in orbit. You're still in Earth's gravity, but to be able to get up to that point, you need a shit ton of fuel. And then once that fuel's is gone, you don't need the thrusters anymore, so they fall off. But you've got other rockets on there. Second stage boosters, third stage boosters. You're going to have maneuvering thrusters.
What are they pushing off of?
But that's what I'm trying to say. They don't need to push off of anything. Even in Earth's atmosphere, they're not pushing off of the atmosphere. Someone actually put it in. It's called a convergence-divergence nozzle. That is what creates the thrust inside the rocket itself. The mere act of something coming out of the back of the rocket, i.e. the expelling gases, means that the rocket has to move forward, because there's been a force created inside the rocket to make the gases move, which means that the rocket has to move. It's nothing to do with pushing off of the atmosphere. It's literally just obeying Newton's second law of motion.
I understand. Let's take pushing out of the equation. Let's take that out of the equation. You can watch videos on YouTube or anywhere of there's these long distant jets that'll fly, military jets that'll fly, and then they'll have to refuel while they're in air.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you watch these videos, other jets will come up to it and they have to do all this, moving, and then, oh, did I get it? No, maybe here, let me get it. And it takes them forever to do that, just to dock and refuel another jet.
Okay, so, right. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about that. Those jets that are refueling the planes, what are they having to contend with?
In what way?
Well, they're using the atmosphere to fly, right?
Atmospheric pressure, you could say gravity, you could say.
Well, they're going to have turbulence, and they're in Earth's atmosphere. That's how they're flying. They're using Earth's atmosphere to create lift and thrust to fly, right? So they've got to take into account turbulence and everything. It's not really quite as easy. In space, you don't have any turbulence. You've just got to match the velocities.
And I know you're going to say it's relative, but something going this fast, how do you land on something going this fast when you're only going this fast?
You make yourself go that. You make yourself go that fast first. You match the orbital velocity. You once you're in space, you turn on your boosters to match the velocity of the ISS, and then you dock once you're going the same speed. It's just a matter of matching the speed, and it's just orbital mechanics. I could literally go through all the orbital mechanics with you, but that's a long process. But what you have to understand is that once you've matched the velocity, you're not going to change. Once you're going the same speed as the ISS, that's it. You're going that. You're not going to slow down and speed up. There's nothing in space to slow you down. There's no friction. So
are you just waiting for it to come to you, and then you
would. I don't work for NASA and I don't do the calculations myself, but the idea is that you get into space and match the orbital velocity. So if these aren't the speeds they're going, but let's say the ISS is going 100 miles an hour and you're going 50 miles an hour, you need to speed up an extra 50 miles an hour to match the speed. That's all. That's all.
Once you leave,
that's what it's doing.
What you're saying, I want to correctly understand. Once you leave Earth's atmosphere, let's say you're going 50,000 miles an hour leaving Earth. So once you get into space, are you still going 50,000 miles per hour, or do you slow down? You would never slow down.
Conservation of momentum means that you maintain your velocity, right? So that's why if you left Earth to go to the moon, it's not like Earth and the moon would speed away from you in space, because you are also going that speed. as you left Earth, you've got the momentum and velocity of Earth taking you with it. So you're already going those speeds. So
okay, once they land on the International Space Station, and once they bring or swap out the astronauts, cosmonauts, whatever you want to call them, how do they come back? How do they bring the ones that they're swapping out? How do they bring them back to it?
Controlled re-entry. That's what the space shuttle's for.
So they dock onto it.
The Suez capsule, the space station. The space shuttle. Sorry, they've got things to bring them. I mean, you're just asking how they go into space and come back. That's what the space shuttle's for.
But how? So once you dock to it, whatever you docked on left. So what are you getting back on to come back?
You're thinking that it's just like a shuttle service that they drop you off and then go back. No. There's usually a craft attached to the ISS that put the people up there, or if you send up something to take supplies, you would then get in that to come back. I mean, you're just asking me about the functions of the ISS scheduling here. It's just a matter of getting into whatever spacecraft is available at the time. Most likely something at the moment from SpaceX, as they seem to do all the restocking missions.
And Elon Musk said himself, when he put the Tesla in space, he said himself, you know it's real because it looks so fake.
Mm-hmm. And that's usually the case.
It looks so real. I mean, it's so real because it looks fake. That just... I don't, like I said, guys, I don't know if the Earth is flat. I don't know if the Earth is round. I don't want to believe these things. I just have questions. I brought my second thing. We were talking about, docking onto the International Space Station. Okay, mm-hmm. And this is another experiment that I've done on my own. If you sit a long exposure camera on the ground with time lapse on, facing towards Polaris, if the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles this way, then 66,000 miles around the sun, and then going in this direction in the universe, why are we seeing perfect circles around Polaris? Why aren't the stars should be doing all kinds of things?
No, right, okay, so the main thing to think about, right, all the stars, if you look up at the night sky, in the normal night sky, all the stars that you can see are a tiny, tiny portion of our galaxy, a tiny portion. And all those stars are moving through the galaxy with us, right? So they're traveling the same speed as we are. Now, let's take Polaris, for example. Polaris is in a particular position where it is in alignment with the Earth's axis, which means that because it's traveling through the galaxy with us and it's in alignment with our axis, it will always be in the same place relative to the North Pole. It does do a little circle. If you kind of you look at it throughout the night, it does trace a little circle in the sky. But the answer is that these things are moving through the galaxy. All the stars are moving through the galaxy with us, so they're not going to change, and they're not going to look like they're doing all these crazy things because. But
they are. They are.
Right. So think of it like this. All right. If you were small enough to fit on a penny, right, and that penny is in the middle of your room, and you are on that penny, and that penny is spinning round, okay. No matter where you are,
not only spinning around. Yeah, not only spinning around.
Right, it's spinning around, right? But it's also moving around the room. Okay, now imagine
going that way.
Now imagine a dot on the ceiling. No matter where you are on that penny looking up, that dot's still going to be on the ceiling. It's so relative to you. It's so far away that it doesn't look like it's moving because it's traveling through the galaxy with us. And to quote Douglas Adams, space is big, really big.
It's huge, apparently.
Well, that we know of, that we can observe about 13.7 billion light years across, but that's because the rest of it is accelerating too fast. But.
Okay, again, this may sound crazy, but have you seen the recent picture of the black hole that they took?
Yeah. Do you know how that was created?
I would love to hear the answer to this. How did they take that creature? First of all, was that an actual photograph?
Well, or
was it an artist's rendition?
It's an image created by satellites all over the planet monitoring this area in space at the same time. And they took data from all those satellites and compiled them to get the data that they had to give the image of the black hole. it's not a direct photograph, like you could just go and snap it with your phone, but it's not an artist's rendition or CGI or anything.
So it's data that they're placing together, basically.
Yeah, the same as most photos are, I suppose. It's just the camera in this case was all of these satellites put together. Now, you could think of them as the microprocessors in your cell phone that operate the camera. That all these satellites were just individual microprocessors.
Is it possible to take a picture of Jupiter?
Dishes, not satellite. Is it possible to take a picture of Jupiter? The dishes, not satellites. So I said the wrong thing about like taking the image. It's not satellites. It was dishes on Earth. Satellite dishes.
And I appreciate you educating me on this. Okay, of course.
So what was the question then?
Is it possible to take a picture of, let's say, Pluto? Is it possible to take a picture of Pluto from Earth?
Probably not really from. You can see it with you could probably image it with a really powerful telescope and see a dot or something, but no, you couldn't take a photo but you can say Jupiter. Let's actually have a look at Daz the cameraman.
Take a picture of Jupiter. Because I've seen videos where people are using telescopes and these high-powered zoom cameras to take. They'll sit on their front porch and they'll put Saturn into view.
Okie
I'll see
dokie.
these things.
Right, now let's have a look at this. So this is Jupiter and its moons with a P1000. Again, taken by Daz the cameraman. The interesting.
Why do I not see any stars?
Right.
If there's all these,
there's the thing that's to do with what's the word I'm looking for? Not refraction. Exposure of the camera. Right. Now here's a really good bit. Right. He takes off the exposure lock, and look what happens here. You ready? Exposure lock comes off. Boom. There's Jupiter's moons that you couldn't see before. Right? And that's the difference. I mean, you still can't see the stars because that's different levels of exposure. But just by taking off the exposure lock, right, there's Jupiter, and then takes off the exposure lock, boom, there's Jupiter's moons.
I want you to keep that picture up there. So this is taken from Earth, correct?
Yeah, with a P1000.
Okay, so you're on your front porch with the P1000, and you are looking at this right now. Is there nothing in between? What is it, Saturn?
That's Jupiter. That's Jupiter. Yeah.
So is there nothing from Earth to Jupiter that's in the way? Like there's no space jump, there's no rock, there's nothing in the way. This is just a clear view picture.
Yeah, space is massive, like really, really, really massive. And Jupiter, that tiny dot that you see that is Jupiter in the middle, that's many hundreds of times bigger than the planet Earth. And now, space junk is so small that you're not going to see any space junk. Space is so big that it's practically 99.9% of the universe is nothing, right? So there's not going to be anything in between there. And even if there was a tiny bit of space junk floating just in your field of view here, you're not going to be able to see it. Not with a P1000.
But if it's close to Earth, if space junk is really close to Earth,
it's still too small to be able to make out with a camera like this. And the odds of it flying in the field of view that Daz the cameraman is using to get these images is pretty infinitesimal. But that doesn't mean you can't capture things. Like, for instance, you can.
I would like to see someone take a picture of space junk from Earth. I would like to see that.
Well, yeah, you've seen obviously the pictures of the ISS going over the moon, right?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Now show me some space junk.
Well, space junk, as in what? A disused satellite? I think
there's a Google image that you can see where literally it looks like clusters and clusters of junk just surrounding Earth's orbit.
Yeah, that's not a picture of Earth. And again, Earth is massive, and most satellites are the size of, say, a Honda Civic. They're not big. I'd say a double-decker bus at the most, right? And that means compared to us, it's compared to the size of the Earth and the orbits, they're so small that even if there's thousands of them, you're not just going to see them all over the place. It's again, space is big, really, really fucking
Massive.
big.
It's
Yeah,
massive.
and
I
so
understand.
is the Earth. That's the thing. So is the Earth.
You didn't fully explain how. I know you said that they took pictures of data to take pictures of this black Earth. I'm sorry, this black hole. But a black hole, according to NASA, swallows all light, swallows everything in its path. So how did we take that picture, man?
Well,
And
what you can see
hold
in...
on,
Sorry,
hold on,
okay.
hold on, hold on, hold on. According to NASA, they say you can't get a full image of Earth. Any image you pull up from Google of Earth, it's not a full image because they have to take composites of data to make an Earth.
Right, okay,
Am
so...
I right or wrong?
You're wrong, because there's many pictures of Earth as a whole. In fact, there's one taken every 10 minutes from a satellite in orbit at the moment. But what was the other thing you said that I wanted to talk about first?
I completely forgot.
Yeah, it's all right. Let's talk about yeah, it's been a long day for me. So
No, I've had a long life. Just put it like that. Yeah, but no, what
right.
I'm
Yeah. No,
asking is,
the black hole. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the black hole. You can't see the black hole because, like you said, the black hole is the absence of light. The black hole. It's not a hole, but the black hole doesn't let any light escape it. But what we could see was radiation around the event horizon before it's past the point where light can't escape. Once you're inside that event horizon, there's no light could never escape past that point. But before the event horizon, you can see the radiation that the black hole is emitting, and actually confirmed a lot of Stephen Hawking's predictions about Hawking radiation. So no, you can't see the black hole, but you could see the effect of the black hole.
So again, was that an actual photograph?
It wasn't
of a black hole.
In so
or was
much.
it just drawn in Photoshop?
Right. No, it wasn't drawn. It was right. If you take a picture with your camera phone, is that a real picture, or is that a computer putting together a bunch of data and showing you an image? Oh, you've gone quiet. I think your mic's unplugged, so I can't hear you. Yeah. Hollywood. I'm not receiving any audio from you all of a sudden. Try refreshing your browser quickly. Hello? No, no audio. Why? Oh, wait, there we go. I could hear you then.
You hear me?
Yep, there we go. You're back.
Yeah.
So, if you take a picture with your cell phone, is that a real picture, or is it the computer of your cell phone taking all the data and then showing you an image?
Well, if I'm looking at the picture that it's taking, I'm looking at the picture, and I just took the picture with my phone. I mean.
Yeah, but what you're seeing on your phone screen once you take that picture, like what are you seeing, an actual picture, or are you seeing what your phone has compiled to show you?
Well, of course you're going to see what your phone took.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And that's the same point with the dishes that we use to image the black hole. It's not a picture, like you've just looked at and taken a picture, but all these dishes were pointed at that area in space, gathering data and compiling the image for us. The same way that if you take a photo with your phone, the processors in the phone, everything in the phone has to work to show you that image. It's the same, except the camera in this case was the network of dishes around the planet looking at that area of space.
Now, these are things you have to just... this is one thing that gets me, man. You have to take scientists' word. You have to take their word. It's literally... I look at science as a religion now. Are you a Christian?
No, I'm very much an atheist.
Okay. So people that are Christian, they don't know if a Jesus existed. They don't know if a God existed. They don't know... Or if you're a Buddhist, you don't know if Buddha existed. You just have to take word from what your ancestors have told you and have faith. if you look, you can't go outside and measure the curvature of the Earth, or you can't perform a test to where you're going to put water around the exterior of an object. You can't do those things in your outside backyard. So you just have to have faith in science, which is basically a religion. You have to have faith that a God exists, which is Catholicism, and you have to have faith that you can't see these planets due to scientism. Not Scientology, but scientism, the religion of science.
So here's the thing about science, is that it's verifiable. Right? Yet, I suppose you're right. You kind of have to have faith that people that have studied their whole lives and do these things know what they're talking about. In the same way that if your boiler breaks in your house, you have to have faith that the engineer you call out has trained and knows what he's doing. You know, yeah, of course you have to have this faith that people know what they're talking about. But and let's take gravity, for example. We don't have to have faith that gravity is real, because we can test that ourselves easily.
Well, even Neil deGrasse Tyson says we don't know what gravity is.
Again,
we know what it does.
Yeah, we don't know entirely what gravity does. Our current understanding of gravity is that it's mass warping space-time, which manifests as an apparent force. The exact mechanism of mass warping space-time, we're not entirely sure on. We've kind of got a little way there with figuring out Higgs boson, thanks to particle accelerators and stuff. But there's still a lot to do. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at the effects of gravity and build an equation around that can accurately describe the world around us, which is what Newton did with his law of gravitational attraction. But then
apple falling on his head.
I mean, that didn't really happen, but we do.
Oh, wait a minute. Go ahead.
We understand what gravity does and the effects of it, and we can calculate around that. Exactly 100% what gravity is. Yeah, no one knows exactly what that is.
So could that not be a case for? And I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but could that not be a case for density and buoyancy?
Absolutely
the reason
not.
Something falls. Please explain, because if this is heavier than what's surrounding it, it's going to fall. If a helium balloon is lighter than what's the medium surrounding it, it's going to float.
Right.
Please explain.
So, if it's the density and buoyancy, right? If I let go of this, you say it's going to fall because the air all around it is less dense than the ball, right? Well,
correct.
Here's the problem, right? We know that our atmosphere has a pressure gradient, which means that the air is more dense at the bottom, and it gets less dense as you go up. So, if this was to fall through the less dense medium, when I let go of it, it would go up and not down. There is something pulling it towards the more dense medium, which on its own destroys density and buoyancy being the reason for things falling. And the other important thing is when I let it go, it doesn't just fall, it accelerates at a constant 9.8 meters per second squared. And acceleration, F equals ma, means that acceleration requires a force, which means there has to be something acting on it to keep it accelerating, which means that density and buoyancy can't explain it, because neither of those things are a force. Well, buoyancy is a force. Buoyancy is a force, but requires gravity for it to work, because say this was filled with helium, right? The reason it would rise is because gravity would be pulling the more dense air around it, forcing it up. And as there's more force at the bottom than the top, because of the gradient, it will push it away from gravity.
See, no one's explained it like that. That actually makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean that's why if something is less heavy than air, it will go up, because gravity is pulling the more heavy things down around it. The same way as if you have a helium balloon and you accelerate in a car, the helium balloon will actually move forward. Whereas if you accelerate in a car, you go to the back, right? You get pushed towards the back. But if you have a helium balloon in your car and you accelerate, you go back, but the helium balloon goes forward. That's because the more heavy air is moving back, pushing the balloon, which is lighter than the air, forward.
That actually makes sense. And I'm glad you explained it that way.
Okay. So density and buoyancy, no, it 100% cannot be an explanation for gravity. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, you've come up with some really valid points. The only thing that I'm still stuck on is the moon is the only thing that gets me. Like, you say, well, there's no need for us to take, and I hate to go back to this, but there's no need for us to take a picture of the landing site. But I think that there is. Wouldn't you like to see the Mona Lisa, the original Mona Lisa? Wouldn't you like to see that?
Sure, I'd like to have active time travel and £1 million in my bank account, but neither of those things are going to happen.
Well, let's be realistic here. You can go and see the actual Mona Lisa. You can do that.
Yeah.
You can do that on Earth. So
yeah, but you can do that if you have sufficient money and want to go and do it, right? Me personally, I probably could go and see the Mona Lisa, but I've got no reason to spend that money and go to all that effort to go and see something that has been seen already many, many times. It's the same thing with...
We're talking about a company that's government subsidized with $53 million a day. This is basically an endless amount of money to do whatever you like. Just show us.
Did you know what percentage of the US budget that is?
No, I don't.
0.49%. Do you know how much the military gets?
No, I don't.
A lot more. I'm going to actually Google the correct amount.
Yeah, so am I. I'm actually doing that right now.
US military budget. So the US military budget spending is projected to account for 54% of all federal discretionary spending, a total of $598.5 billion.
Doesn't even. Okay,
let's see what percentage.
Is that a year? Is that annually? Is that what is that?
So 648 billion was the military budget for the US in 2018, compared to the 53 million.
Money?
What, the military?
Jesus. I mean, anything with that amount of money, you can do whatever you want. What are you doing with that amount of money? There's no major wars here in America. I mean, yeah, we are overseas with troops on ground in Iraq and these Middle Eastern countries, but what are you doing with all of that money, man?
How many servicemen do the Americans have? How much fuel does operating all the vehicles cost? How much rent do they have to pay? You know, you think that all the military bases, they've all got to pay rent to somebody. You know, then there's training everybody. There's paying. How many retired military veterans is there that have to have pensions and stuff? You know,
that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I 100% agree with you. It's a lot of money, and maybe I would think it's maybe a good idea to take 50% of military spending and chuck it at NASA. That's what I'd do.
And do what with it? Give it to NASA, and what would you let NASA do with it? Advance
humanity. Get to the moon. Create a base. Give us the means to go out and spread to the solar system.
But if we have capabilities of going to the moon in 1969, why do we not have capabilities of doing that now? The capability of going to Mars.
As I explained to you, back then, after the moon missions were done, even coming up to Apollo 17 and stuff, interest in it was waning. Political clout behind the spending and the research was waning, was done. But that actually allowed private companies to come along and advance their technology, like SpaceX and Blue Origin and stuff. You know, and now we're at a stage where private companies are actually the ones that are probably going to advance us more than NASA ever did, because NASA are still they're a government agency, right? So everything they do has got to be agreed upon by so many people. But if you've got a private...
So is SpaceX a government agency?
No, SpaceX is the company, and they can do what the fuck they want. Like, if SpaceX were to say, right, we've built the technology to go and colonize another planet, they would be completely within their own rights to go, we're going to decide who we take. They're not a government agency. They haven't got to bow down to anyone. And it's
now,
the same.
Why is that?
When,
is it because Elon Musk has a certain amount of money to where he just doesn't have to apply to the government rules?
No, it's because he's the CEO of his own company, and his company decides what happens.
Right. But if I was the CEO of a company and I wanted to move to, if I live in America and I wanted to move to Mexico, I couldn't do that illegally. I would have to have some passport, some visa to travel over a border to go to another country. So why is that not the same thing leaving Earth to go to another planet?
Because no one
You know what I
owns
mean? Like,
no one owns the other planets, and space exploration is kind of humanity. It's not a country thing, I would think. Like,
that's actually true. I don't think you can own, like, if you go to the moon and grab a rock and come back,
like
you
I,
can't
I
say
reckon.
someone owns that moon.
I reckon, say if we colonized another planet, I think it would kind of be run by corporations rather than governments, because corporations would be the ones to get out there. You know,
Right.
that's just what I think. But yeah, it's just to do with NASA, their government, and everything they do has got to be decided by all these people. You know, but SpaceX are a company, and they can decide what they advance their technology in. That's the simple answer.
Gotcha. I've still got a few more doubts, man, but I mean, we could sit here and talk about this all day long, dude.
Oh,
All day long.
is there anything else you want to talk about? We can go with one more topic.
Actually, let's see. Hold on, I do have one more. Okay. The Earth is spinning eastbound.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. So if an airplane was flying somewhere going westbound, wouldn't it take longer for them to get there than it would going eastbound? Because, you're fighting the.
Okay. So the basic answer to that is that the atmosphere is spinning with the Earth. So,
Okay.
if the airplane was at the equator in the air and it wasn't moving, right, you could kind of say that it's moving at 1,000 miles an hour, because that's what the equator is spinning at, right? Now,
Right.
if you then say that plane is moving eastward at 400 miles an hour, that's, I suppose you could say it's 1,000 miles an hour minus that 400 miles an hour. And then if it's going westward, it's 1,000 miles an hour plus that 400 miles an hour. So you're not fighting the spin of the Earth. You're using the atmosphere, which is spinning with the Earth.
So if I was in Georgia and I wanted to go to Europe, and I went eastbound going with the spin of the Earth, or if I wanted to go around the other way, it would take longer, right? Of course, because I'm going, I'm circumnavigating on a totally opposite side of the Earth. But it should. I don't know how to explain it. So if, let's say it takes me 24 hours to get one direction, if I go the opposite direction, does it double that time? Like, does it take me 48 hours to get to there? Because, or is
No.
it still 24 hours or 25 hours?
It's still the same, because again, you're spinning with the Earth. No matter which direction you're going, you're still spinning with the Earth. A helicopter, a plane, they all have to use the atmosphere to travel. And you can basically, this is why this is why flat earthers bring up the whole, they say that they assume a flat and stationary plane to trained pilots. Well, that's kind of right, but that's because for all intents and purposes, you are flying over a stationary Earth, because the Earth
Why is that kind of right?
because the Earth is spinning with you. So in the same way that you can say, if you're next to another car that is going 50 miles an hour with you, relative to you, that car is stationary. So if you were to do something on top of that, standing on top of that car, you would assume that the car next to you was stationary because it's moving the same speed as you. It's the same when the plane is flying over the Earth. It will assume that the Earth is stationary because it's already spinning with the Earth, because the atmosphere is moving with it.
Right.
So it's all about relative speeds.
Have you ever heard that? I'm sure you've heard some flat earthers say that, how come you can't fly up in a helicopter, stay stationary, let the Earth move around you, and let your destination come to you? Never heard that.
Yeah, and again, that wouldn't work because we are using the atmosphere to move. So if you're in a helicopter,
So once we leave Earth's atmosphere, would that be able to work?
yeah, but you would have to slow down. So, like, say you left Earth's atmosphere, right? So you took off from the Earth at the equator, and you're traveling 1,000 miles an hour with the spin of the Earth, right? Which means that as you leave the atmosphere, you've still got that momentum of the 1,000 miles an hour. So to be stationary, you would have to actually slow down and not be moving. Do you see what I mean?
How would you slow down?
by putting a thrust in the opposite direction.
But you don't. You earlier you said you can't thrust off. There's nothing thrusting off of in your space.
No, you don't thrust off of anything. You create the thrust within the combustion chamber of so whichever way you point the jets, you're going to go in the opposite direction because of Newton's second law of motion.
Okay. I'm going to take your word for it, man. A lot of it's over my head. I mean, guys, listen.
Definitely, there's other questions that we can talk about, and I'm definitely up for having another chat with you another time.
Absolutely.
I've got a question from the chat, if you don't mind.
Sure, let's hear it.
I've got a triangle of sides 1, 1, and 1. What are the internal angles?
30 degrees? I mean, what's the question again?
I've got a triangle, a triangle of sides 1, 1, and 1. Okay. What are the internal angles?
They would be not 90. What? 60 degrees?
60. There you go. Better than most flat earthers. Yeah. Well done. That was the question that I've seen from the chat.
What does that have to do with anything?
It's
of course the 90 angle is going to be right there. So
at this point, it's a litmus test for flat earthers.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So yeah, that.
Look, y'all, look, I'm a country boy. I do have some education, college education in computer science and programming. So yes, like I said, I don't know.
So an interesting thing about a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1, 60 degrees is you can have that triangle with 90 degrees if you put it on the Earth. Because once you put a triangle onto the Earth, then the angles will get spread out, and on a sphere it's 90 degrees. I think your mic's cut out again. Yeah, I can't hear you. Your mic's gone. Yep, can't hear you. All right, guys. When he comes back, we're going to read super chats and yeah, we can hear you, buddy.
Yeah. Anything from the chat? I'm curious because I do want to ask you one question that doesn't pertain to the flat Earth, but it's just something in my head. Me being a good old Southern boy, I just got to ask you.
All right. Well, if you ask that question now, chat. If you would like to ask Hollywood 6 a question, and get it in the chat now. But yeah, what was your question?
Completely. This may sound crazy to you, but you eat chicken, right?
Yeah.
Do you wash your chicken before you cook it?
Jen, no, I don't rinse a chicken. You're not supposed to do that.
I think that is again, me being a good old Southern boy, my grandmother would punch me in my face if I tried to serve her chicken that was not washed. And I'm black, white, and Irish. So I take the black side and I take the white side. But generally the white side says, don't wash your chicken. But I've never heard that. The government just put out a statement saying, don't wash your chicken because it spreads salmonella. If I serve my grandma chicken, Grandma, if you're watching this, she would punch me in the face.
Okay.
Wash your chicken.
That's a random one. Thanks. Right, let's see what questions we got. Okay, so Jack Lack says, did you pass high school science classes?
I actually did. I actually have an associate's in computer programming and computer science.
Are you still a flat earther after talking to me?
Again, I don't know.
Okay.
You have made some very valid points. The density and buoyancy thing, you made a very, very valid point about that. That cleared that up a little bit. But the moon thing is still kind of iffy.
Okay. Bombard99 says, if the Earth is flat, why do communications between warships using LOS have to be switched to satellite comms at very specific mile range?
If you ask me, all that can be done from ground level.
Right.
That can be done from
so
ground
the
level.
the problem is when you are out at sea, in the middle of sea, and there's nothing around. How does that? Why do they have to change from using LOS to satellites?
Again, I've never been on a naval ship in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. I don't know. These are things that I have to take faith. I have to believe in what you are telling me.
Okay.
It's a religion.
I mean, I was in the Royal Navy, and
Again,
I can tell you that's true. Right, so let's get one more. Sorry, I'm just looking for a decent one. Some chicken needs to be
Do you
warm.
have a Patreon, right?
I do have a Patreon, yes. The names are on the bottom.
I'm going to send you some cash.
I think that was all the questions actually that I saw. All right. Oh hell no says, why are there shadows on Jupiter?
Hell no.
Why are there shadows on Jupiter from its moons if you say it's a light source?
I don't think I've ever said that.
No, I think that's a flat Earth claim in general, really.
Yeah, and I hear that people say that, you know, moon is its own luminescence and it casts its own light. What do you? Okay, I do want to say something. What do you say to the astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong when they first came back? They had a press conference, and Buzz Aldrin said himself, "I don't remember seeing any stars." A few years later, they asked him the same question, and he said, "Man, the stars are beautiful." What do you say to that? One minute he says he didn't see any stars, and the next minute he says he does see stars.
I couldn't comment on that particular quote. I haven't heard him say the thing about seeing the stars, but as for not seeing it, it's a case of the fact that there were more light sources around them. But that particular quote I would have to look into for you. But the thing is, you ask Buzz Aldrin if he went to the moon, and he's going to say yes. One more question is from Casual. Yeah, I know. Casual Spaceman asks, he would like to have you on his channel to talk about the moon landings. Would you be up for that?
Sure.
Yeah, cool.
By the way, guys, my email, atlboy, the number 2, the letter G, number 5, @gmail.com. Or just message me on YouTube, youtube.com/Hollywood, the number 6IX. I'm willing to talk to anybody.
Cool.
And I want to have you on the podcast as well.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to come on. Me and Team Skeptic could come on together. That'd be quite fun, actually.
Do you guys do any? Are you have any other conspiracy debunks that you are against? Like, what about 9/11? Are you against that? Do you have any?
I'm very much against 9/11 truthers, and I'm looking at branching out into other things than just flat Earth and. Probably
Dude, I have to have you on
vaccines and 9/11s would be things that I would debate people on.
So you think the government did know about 9/11 or they did not?
I don't want to get into it all now. I'm not saying that everything we're told is exactly as it was, but I don't think there's this crazy massive inside job. But like I said, I'm thinking of doing. What would the chat think about me actually doing a video covering 9/11 truthers, because it is something that I've been considering, but I'd like to hear from my audience if that's something they'd be interested in hearing.
Even JFK. God, dude, you have to meet, and you know what? That's great for you to have Team Skeptic on, and then we have my co-host Larry Cowan on. Like, dude, there's so many things that we are interested in. Like, is there a cure for AIDS? Or is there a cure for HIV? They say that there isn't, but I mean. Look at Magic Johnson. I just want to throw this out real quick. Okay. A lot of people say that AIDS and HIV was created to eliminate the gay, the homosexual population, and the minorities, Black, Hispanics. Now, it's a proven fact in the United States that Blacks have HIV/AIDS more than any other race. So back then, when they put this race out that they created in a laboratory, they needed a spokesperson. They needed a face for the virus HIV. So they get the most popular basketball player, Magic Johnson. Now, the male penis, a nickname for the male penis is called a Johnson. Hey, look at my Johnson. And my Johnson just so happens to be Magic. So let's go get Magic Johnson that is still living great to this day. It just seems, dude, there's so many things that I'm so skeptical about. You've clarified a few things about the flat Earth, but there's a bunch, man.
Yeah,
like reincarnation. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll speak to the team, and we'll arrange a time that we can have a chat together about some other crazy conspiracy stuff. The thing is about flat Earth is that if you can believe flat Earth, then you can kind of believe anything. Because to believe flat Earth, you literally have to believe that everyone is lying to you. And
No,
if everyone, but to believe flat Earth, you have to believe that pilots, every teacher, every scientist, every boat captain, all the people that so many there's like governments and everything would have to be lying. And I think if you can have that, everyone's lying to me, then that makes kind of most conspiracies possible.
I don't think anyone's lying. But if you're taught a certain agenda, that's all you know. The people above him, that's all they know. The people above them, that's all they know. So they're going to teach what they know. You know what I mean? Until you do your own research. I don't know. I don't know if it's flat, a triangle, a beer bottle. I don't know.
Parabola Earth. I think we're going to stop it there for tonight. I'm going to read out the super chats. Then I'll give you a chance to just shout out your channel and stuff again. Okay, so Bearded Devil 1864, $20. Time to stop the infinite Flerfer regress. He needs to provide positive evidence of a flat Earth. End this appeal to incredulity fueled farce, please. This is basic stuff taught in school, and it's 2019 and Google is a thing. Yeah, I think with Hollywood here, it's been more actually, but he genuinely has questions, which I don't mind. So I've actually not minded this conversation at all. $5 from Beer Can Girth. It's time to stop taking the cognitively disabled and bringing them onto a debate. There's a reason why circus slideshows are now morally taboo. $4 from Andrew Stoll. Can this dolt do his own IQ research? OMG. $2 from Candora Man. Ask why he was wrong about the size of the face. Yeah, I guess he could just look into that some more. $10 more from Bearded Devil 1864. FTFE, the yeah buts from this guy are getting old. This is the stuff he himself can easily research on his own. He's just going to keep dragging you down his regressive rabbit hole of duh. Yeah, Google is a thing, but hearing someone explain things to you sometimes can be helpful. Nendad Cubic 10 BAM. I'm not sure what BAM is, but thanks for the BAM. FTFE, how can you stay so calm? I already have several face palms. Cheers. I've got a 10-year-old son with ADHD and Asperger's. Staying calm is a way of life. Are you
comparing me to your 10-year-old son with ADHD?
No, I'm just saying that I'm practiced in staying calm.
Okay.
Willie Merck, $4.99 US. I build cars myself, and it's the same situation with the original rotary engine. Jets are worse, so like Lockheed, cut the F22A line, the tools are gone. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Once you don't have the tools to build things that were made years ago. £5 from Casual Spaceman. Nice open-minded dude. Does this guy know anyone that would like to debate the moon landings on 20th of July with me and Dead Kennedy in space? Well, I'll get you in. I'll get you in contact, Casual Spaceman. Thanks for the super chat. $2 from Andrew Stoll. JAQing off, just asking questions. Yeah, he asked a lot of questions. I don't mind that. $2 Canadian from Brainy Beaver. Antarctica's World War III juice. Yeah. $2 from Leroy BB8. That's just video proving what I asked. That's all. $2.79 Canadian from Stern Alien. I bet. How about we ask him some questions now? That wasn't really what this was for. Maybe we can have him back on, definitely.
On my podcast.
Yeah. $5 from Andrew Stoll. Every GD question this guy asked, he should have asked in 10th grade. What the fuck? I'd love to know what his grades in science were. $5 from Leroy.
Straight A student.
Straight A's, there you go.
2.0. Yeah,
$5 from Leroy BB8. Earning your shill money today, you are. Yep, got a shill. $5 from Logical Hillbilly. Part Bo, part Po, part Troll. Troll. Either way, he's full of crap. $2 from Andrew Stoll. This should be renamed Remedial 7th Grade Science. 500. I think that's yen from Kuesa. Keep up the good work and stay flat, okay? Pff, sorry, can't keep a straight face with that one. $1 from Dale Griffiths.
Oh, wow.
Another dollar from Dale Griffiths. No message, thank you. $3 from Leroy BB8. 111 triangle equals Illuminati. $2 from Mike71. How does your phone know what is down? Accelerometer. $5 from Harry SK. Hollywood. If we can see the moon for P1000, if the Earth were flat and the sun were always above us, couldn't we see the sun at all times?
Oh, bro, I got one more question. I forgot to ask you this. Go ahead.
All right, last one. Robert Williams, lit part of the moon almost as bright as Earth at day. $1.99. Thank you very much. I think that was the last one. Let me just double check. Oh, had a couple more come in. Please stay away from 9/11. 20 secs, thank you. Okay, yeah, the no's were pretty firm on that. $10 from Tig1116, 65 plus space agencies, all lying. $2 from message deleted, so thank you for that. I don't know who or what the message was. $5 from MA2 Fletcher Eisler. 1 Bosnia Herzegovina convertible mark BAM equals 58 United States dollars, 58 cents. Oh, thank you. And $2 from Jarvis Dronify. Can he not take an Antarctica flight himself? Okay, so yeah, what was your last question, bud?
Okay, when I go outside early in the morning, can you pull your baller up again, please? Okay. I go outside in the morning sometimes, and I'll see the moon here, and I'll see the sun literally maybe 15 inches from my perspective.
Yeah.
So on the opposite side of the planet where it's dark, how are they seeing the same exact moon that I'm seeing when the sun is right next to it? How is that possible?
Right, so if this is the accurate size of the Earth, all right, the moon, oh, let me get in the right place, as you can see, the moon's probably about here. Maybe even a bit further. So this is like, the moon's maybe about here, and it's tiny compared to the Earth. It's really, really far away. All right, so that means that someone here and someone here are both going to be able to see what's up here.
Okay.
It's
now
just,
what about the opposite side of the planet where it's midnight? Shouldn't they be seeing the same moon that I'm seeing?
if it's within the angle that they can see it, then yeah. I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot of places where you can see the sun and the moon at the same time, but you'd be seeing maybe different phases from where you are on the Earth.
Okay.
But I mean, the fact is that, like I said, the distance is, this is the Earth and the moon. It's like, it's really, really far away compared to the size of the Earth and the moon. It's, 250,000 miles. So, but anyway, we'd just take a few minutes to talk about your channel again, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, guys, youtube.com/Hollywood6. That's Hollywood, the number 6IX. Thank you so much, Fight, for having me on here, man.
You're welcome.
About a lot of things. You're very knowledgeable. Everybody, make sure you guys go check him out. Come check me out as well. Fight, I'm really hoping to have you and Team Skeptic on, man. I think we would have a great episode. Also, just guys out there, like I said from the beginning, I'm not a flatter. I'm not a rounder. I don't know. That's why I'm asking these questions. Not once did you hear me come in here and say, this is what happened. This is what it is. And you can't prove it. Not once have you heard me say those things. I simply ask questions.
And I do appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome. But yeah, guys, go subscribe, youtube.com/Hollywood6IX. Hoping to have him on as soon as possible. Go check out the new music video I dropped. We post a podcast every Thursday. We do reactions. We do interviews with up-and-coming rappers. We debate conspiracies. We do things like this. Guys, hoping to see you there. Thank you for having me on, bro. It was great.
Thanks very much, Hollywood. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the super chats as always. I'm going to have a new video out, I think on Thursday, talking about the fiber optic gyro and Bob proving rotation of the Earth. And check out my video that I dropped yesterday, which was for Dell, titled "Angry Flat Earther Leaves His Shed and Points at Things." I had a lot.
That was awesome.
I had a lot of
gates.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun making that episode, and Radical the Unhallowed Knight helped me out with that. But for tonight, guys, that is everything. And remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat Earth. Fight the flat. 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 Fight the flat.